Springfield's Talk 104.1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. My name is Nick Reed. We are streaming live, KSGF.com, YouTube as well. Tomorrow, Friday, we got a couple things going on. We do, of course, have our Friday Road Show at Scramblers, sponsored by Shirley's Heating and Air. We will have a happy hour as well. That will be Retro Metro. 4 to 6 tomorrow afternoon, and we'll have Doobie Brother tickets that we will be giving away, a pair of those. Thunder Ridge Nature Arena coming up in September, and it'll be a registration on site, so you can come sign up between 4 and 6 o'clock, and we will draw at 6. Well, I'll have those tickets on hand, so you won't have to come by, pick them up, or wait for them. You'll get them right there. That instant satisfaction. That instant gratification. Yesterday, Trump hailing it as Independence Day with a number of tariffs, and he had a visual aid there demonstrating that the tariffs that are being put in place he kept talking about kind tariffs, I think is the term that he was using, kind tariffs. And that's referencing the fact that these aren't even tariffs to the same level of tariffs that those countries put on the United States. And I think it's just an important reminder for people, and probably an education for a lot of Americans who get their news from the mainstream media that don't even realize that tariffs are something that have been going on and have been used against the United States to our disadvantage for some time. They think that tariffs are something that Trump made up because he's a crazy dictator, and he probably even created the word tariff somehow, and there's no real knowledge of it. I'm not going to go through again the explanation of tariffs and how a tariff is a hammer. It's a tool. It can be used to destroy something. It can be used to create something. It can tear down a house. It can create a house. It can do a little project. It can destroy a little project. It is all dependent on its usage. Now, at the same time yesterday in the Senate, and I do want to talk about this to some degree because Rand Paul was involved in joining with 3 other Republican senators and, of course, all Democrats, voting in order to essentially block Trump's usage of tariffs under this Emergency Act. And Rand Paul is someone that is not generally seen as doing things for political reasons. That he's someone that I know I have long viewed as a person who strenuously has a belief system that is not generally swayed by the politics of the day, which oftentimes sets him aside and puts him outside the Republican Party even. Now, that doesn't mean that he's always right. He yesterday in the Senate railed against the tariffs for a couple of reasons. One, economically, he believes that there's no upside to this. He also argues that it's just so very, very clear that the president doesn't have the authority to do this because the founders were adamantly opposed to any one branch having the ability to unilaterally, specifically the executive, put a tax on anyone. Well, there's a couple of problems with his argument. One is the fact that Congress, decades ago, gave the president this authority. And when it was challenged, the Supreme Court, I'm not saying that means that this is correct, but the Supreme Court found that it was constitutional because it was the president carrying out something that was granted by the legislature. I mean, this was back, I think it was in the 50s this decision was made. And there have been a number of different instances in which Congress has legislatively passed laws that were signed into law that gives the president the authority to do this, which is why presidents have been doing it ever since. So, there are a number of areas that Rand Paul, as I think a respected individual who is taking this position not for political reasons, I just think that he happens to be wrong on it, but because he is an intelligent person that is not making these arguments for political purposes, I think it does deserve a discussion, as opposed to, Democrats that, they just hate Trump, and so it doesn't matter what Trump does. They hate it, hence hating the tariffs. And the proof of that is the fact that, and we're going to revisit some audio of when Joe Biden announced massive tariffs on China on a whole slew of different products. And it's really amazing, all the different news stories I went through. I've got a little montage. They never talked about how in the media, how bad this was for the consumer, how this was actually going to raise prices on products for consumer. It's just amazing. All of the tariff coverage from Joe Biden's tariff increases never talked about that stuff. In fact, in one of the clips, they talked to someone who worked at a car dealership and talked about how good this was going to be for the consumer. Isn't it amazing how different the presentation is when the issue is the same, but the person behind it is different? When Biden put in tariffs, it was a great thing. No real downside. In fact, the only potential, if you would want to call it, let's not say negative, but cynical tone to the media coverage at the time of Biden putting massive tariffs in place was that he was doing it for political reasons because it was seen as helping workers and consumers in swing states. And so he was doing this to try to win votes. Even the cynicism, however, is very telling because what does that do? That paints tariffs, the way that the media was covering it, as good for the consumer, good for the voter. That's why Biden was doing it come election time. He was trying to make things better for the worker, and that's why he was putting these tariffs into place. Trump does it, however, oh my gosh, it's awful, it's horrible. It's the end of the world as we know it. Calamity. Weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
I know. Exciting news for Fairgrove.
Is there a betting board on how long this one's going to last?
I don't know. Hopefully he'll last for a while. Good thoughts for Fairgrove.
Well, the problem is, and this may be unfair, but if he does work out, does that not make you suspicious? Well, really,
no,
because
I understand what you're saying.
You've got just one after another and after another, and so you're like, well, something clearly is wrong there. And if all of a sudden there's one that you're like, well, wait a minute,
what's different about this?
Yeah, what's going on here? Yeah, and that's maybe totally unfair, but that's just, I mean,
I know.
You kind of invite that sort of suspicion.
The first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see showers with a high near 60. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms with a low around 48. For your Friday, rain with a high near 62. And Saturday, showers with a high near 53.
Before we play some audio regarding President Trump's attack on our economy, of course, these massive taxes that he's putting in place disguised as tariffs, and everyone knows that this is a horrible thing, that this is no good for the worker, it's no good for the consumer. Before we get to that, I thought I would play audio from the Biden administration.
President Biden, surrounded by union workers, signed strong new tariffs targeting Chinese-made goods and green technologies because he says China is creating an uneven playing field.
To make sure American workers and American business and corporations can compete and win in the industries of the future.
The move pushes the U.S. tax on Chinese steel up to 25%. Chinese-made semiconductors will be hit with a 50% tariff. Electric vehicle batteries will rise to 25%, and Chinese EVs will have a 100% tariff placed on them.
We're never going to allow China to unfairly control the market for these cars, period.
With China revving up to sell government-subsidized electric vehicles for as low as $10,000, tonight the Biden administration is slapping higher tariffs on EVs and other Chinese goods to fight what it calls unfair trade practices.
It's not competition, it's cheating.
The price to import electric vehicles from China will now quadruple from a 25% tax to 100%. The president is also announcing hikes on a slew of other Chinese products, including steel and aluminum, lithium-ion batteries, semiconductors, syringes and needles, and personal protective equipment.
China heavily subsidized all these products, pushing Chinese companies to produce far more than the rest of the world can absorb, and then dumping the excess products onto the market at unfairly low prices.
In battleground Wisconsin, car dealer Scott Kunis thinks the administration is pushing EVs too hard, but he supports what President Biden did today.
Leveling the playing field across the board is important, especially when we have the Chinese government subsidizing their EV production.
Biden administration is rolling out heavy tariffs on many products entering the U.S. from China with the goal of punishing Chinese companies, encouraging more production here at home, and also, by the way, attract voters in this presidential election. Ed O'Keefe is at the White House. He's following all this for us. Ed, good morning to you.
Tony, good to see you. This is a long-anticipated announcement that comes as polls show voters don't think the president's doing enough to address concerns with the economy. President Biden today is announcing new tariffs on $18 billion worth of Chinese-made products like electrical vehicles, semiconductors, batteries, steel, and aluminum. Tariffs on electric vehicles from China will soar to 100%. The tariff on imported steel will jump to 25%. The White House says the move's designed to address unfair trade practices by China, including the theft of intellectual property. Officials note China's moves have adversely affected industries based in the battleground states of Michigan and Pennsylvania. Adds to the political aspects of this. It's a major reversal for President Biden, who 4 years ago strongly criticized tariffs that then President Donald Trump had imposed on China, but then he left them in place, and now he's only expanding them. And we should note, presidents since Ronald Reagan have imposed tariffs in hopes of winning over voters concerned about the economy. We'll see if it helps President Biden.
All right, so those just a few different news stories from the Biden years and his implementation of tariffs. Can you imagine if you are a person who gets your news from the standard news media out there, and if you just happen to stumble upon a show like this and you hear that information, your head would probably explode. You would, like, wait, what? You'd think you're living in another universe. Or this was an AI-created segment in which this was all fake audio. Everything about it is, if you were, without any sort of knowledge whatsoever, of the way that the media covered tariffs during the Biden years, knowing how they're covering it now create a story that's the exact opposite, a position, a narrative that's the exact opposite of the way that they're covering tariffs under Trump. That is the story that you would produce, or there's a number of different stories there. Does anybody remember Democrats pitching a fit? Did you hear in any of those news stories talk about how this was going to be a crushing blow to the consumer? Did you hear real numbers in terms of, well, buying a car costs this much now, but wait until Biden's tariffs go into place, it's going to be $3,000 or $4,000 more? Did you hear Chuck Schumer out there squalling about how it's going to cost consumers $5,000 more a year? No, in fact, one of the networks there, these are the, from the major networks, found a employee at a car dealership saying that this was necessary in order to level the playing field. Where have we heard that terminology? The tone of the coverage regarding China, as these were tariffs specifically targeting China, cast China in a negative light. You heard Biden talk about this being necessary because what China was doing wasn't fair. They were, quote, cheating. You had the news positioning this as something that's being done by the Biden administration in order to combat China flooding our market unfairly with vehicles that they're subsidizing to undercut the U.S., and so this is good for the American worker and consumer. It was referred to as something that encourages U.S. production, the tariffs, under Biden, of course. The level of absurdity, I don't understand how. I guess you just have to be vapid and void of any sort of honesty and intellect to see the way that this is covered. To hate it when Trump does it, but you're fine with it when Biden does it. Not only fine with it, but position it as being something that's good. And then finding the average American worker. How different is the worker that they find when it comes to the discussion of tariffs in the media? Oh, the mainstream media, they find workers to talk about tariffs under the Trump administration, and it's worry, it's angst, it's we don't know how we're going to survive this, it's we're going to have to pass this on to our consumers, we don't know what's going to happen, this is not a good thing, the uncertainty is killing us. Boy, you managed to find these workers, the media did, during the Biden tariffs, and suddenly they're like, well, this is good. This is fantastic. It's leveling the playing field. This is what we needed. Now, as I've noted, tariffs are a tool that can be used wisely or unwisely. And there are nuances in results and also in motivation for the use of tariffs. Some of it leveling the playing field, some of it with China that the Trump administration did, and the Biden administration carried it over because of intellectual theft purposes. So there's a punitive component to it at times. Point being is that tariffs, the usage for it can be, the motivating factors can be different. So you can have a legitimate objective view of a tariff situation on one hand that might differ than a tariff situation in another hand because of the circumstances, the reasoning behind it, the overall scope. But it's just the complete narrative regarding the coverage of tariffs under Trump versus Biden. I mean, it is 100% opposite. The other countries deserve it. It has to be done. This is under Biden. It has to be done in order to level the playing field. Let's find some workers to talk about. Oh, they say it's wonderful and it's needed. It's a great thing. Under Trump, oh boy, the workers are very upset about this. The average consumer is very concerned about this. Oh, these poor other countries. Look at how Trump is alienating even some of our allies. Oh, how could he do this to them? Every day, the media provides an example as to why it is that in no way, shape, or form you should trust them. If you just want, particularly if you're on the left, somebody to validate what you already believe, not educate or inform you as to what's actually going on, then tune into the news. The news for people on the left is like that best friend that no matter how bad you screw up, they know that they can call you and you'll tell them whatever they want to hear. Like you just lost your 5th job in 6 months because you show up to work, drunk and late, and you cause accidents and you're belligerent, but you've got that one friend that you call and he'll tell you what a jerk that boss was and how you deserve better than that, and that, boy, they'll be sorry you're gone. That's what the media is for the left. Turn it on so they can just tell you, yes, Trump is horrible. Whatever he's doing, it doesn't matter what it is. We'll explain to you why it's bad. But guess what? You're not learning anything. You're just running in circles in your own little world there. Now, Trump had, we'll play some of this audio coming up, a union worker there to talk a bit about this. There was, I think it was on Fox Business, a segment that had a couple of union workers who talked about this. And so if you know where to look, you can find instances of this. And I thought maybe that would be a refreshing thing to hear as well. Coming up, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers and roofs.
Thank you. Yep, I'm going to tell you about roofs. Specifically, the Pyramid Roofing Company. We have another round of showers and thunderstorms moving through the listening area over the next couple of days. And if you experience any type of storm damage, whether it be yellowing on your ceiling, drips, leaks, or maybe your gutters are just not keeping up, I want to recommend Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, the Pyramid team, they offer emergency tarping services if you do find yourself in a situation where you need them. And they also offer free roof inspections. And if something does pop up during that roof inspection, the Pyramid team, they also work with you through that insurance process without making you sign anything, which is really nice because not all roofing companies do that. So over the next couple of days, if your roof struggles with the rain, remember the Pyramid Roofing Company. And like always, you can find all of the contact information, plus photos and videos of the work that the Pyramid team did on my home. All of that is housed under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Coming up, audio of, in a number of different venues, some American blue-collar workers that are speaking out about the Trump tariffs and have very positive things to say about it. Also, I'll respond to a text message on the Pyramid Roofing Company talking text lines, and I keep hearing about the pain that this may cause for a while. I see the pain and high prices that it's already causing the folks on Social Security in the grocery store. I see them look at things and put them back. Eggs have not went down. Well, yeah, they have. But or gas, along with many other products, seems no one really cares how much more of a burden this will hurt them. I'm not a liberal. I guess I just care about folks barely getting by. So I'll respond to that also coming up. The Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line is 447 KSGF. Traffic update, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see showers with a high near 60. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms with a low around 48. For your Friday, rain throughout the day with a high near 62. And on Saturday, showers with a high near 53.
I want a great homeloan.com. Any home loan needs that you have or questions you may have or credit, how that impacts the home loan. Or should I wait because interest rates, are they going to go up? Are they going to go down? Or is that something you should even worry about? One of the things I've learned over time is that you can always refinance. And so if you're trying to, quote, game the system by waiting for interest rates to go down because you think, well, if I get them now and it's whatever percentage and then it goes down later, gosh, I just really screwed myself. It's not the case at all. In fact, every single month that you're paying rent instead of mortgage, if you are a current renter, your interest rate's like 100% because you're paying someone else's mortgage. You don't get any equity out of that whatsoever. Now, buying may not be the right thing for you depending on a number of different circumstances, but this is where they can guide and counsel you. They offer so much more than the actual process of getting you that home loan or refinance. The advice is invaluable. I recommend that you take advantage of it, getting in contact with any of the characters and members of their team, their contact info at iwantagreathomeloan.com because you do. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. Someone had sent in a text talking about how they keep hearing, about the pain that this may cause for a while, talking about the tariff component here, and then noting that, he says he goes to the grocery store and sees people on Social Security and that they are looking at items and putting them back on the shelves. He claims egg prices haven't gone down. That's not true. Hopefully they'll go down more. They have gone down to some degree. Now, that's not a tariff issue whatsoever. That largely stems from the, however, 500,000 or whatever the number of chickens that were slaughtered in the previous administration because of bird flu concerns. And then, it takes a long while for new birds to be able to produce eggs. And so as,
weeks.
Yeah, about how long?
About 18
Okay.
weeks, approximately.
Yeah. And so and by the way, the reason that the price of a rotisserie chicken hasn't gone up with the eggs because those are different types of chicken. That's a totally separate category. But that as the marketplace begins to be, or the producers begin to be populated with egg-laying chickens once again, we're going to see those prices slowly go down. But regarding the tariffs and the position here that says seems no one really cares how much more of a burden this will hurt them. I'm not a liberal. I guess I care about folks barely getting by. Well, listen. There is caring with the heart, and then there's caring through meaningful action. And unfortunately, what happens a lot of times is people are short-sighted in their caring. This is a human... Listen, parents do it with kids all the time. I don't want my kids to feel any pain. I don't want my kids to feel any discomfort. And so they do everything they can short-term to make sure that they don't feel any pain. Well, the problem is then they get out in the real world, and then there's a lot of pain because they haven't learned how to navigate through that stuff. Now, we could just say, you know what, let's continue down the path that we're on because the tariffs in certain categories for a short time may cause an increase in price. Now, that is debatable. Whether people want to believe it or not, it's debatable. And it may in some categories, not in others. We do know one thing for a fact, and that is that Trump, in his first term, implemented numerous tariffs that the Biden administration continued on with, and that did not increase the cost of things. So we know that it is possible for tariffs to go into place and it not increase the prices. Now, the reason that you're hearing it positioned as if it's a no-brainer that automatically happens is because you're listening to the media and you're listening to Democrats. Of course they're going to say that. They didn't say it when Biden kept the tariffs or even added tariffs. I opened the show playing a montage of news reports of Biden announcing tariffs, and if you didn't know any better, they were the best thing in the world. They were great for workers. They were great for consumers. They were leveling the playing field. They were using the verbiage that Trump uses today to explain the tariffs, but it was Biden. So it's arguable as to whether that will even happen. But this is the thing, just when it comes to the economy overall, we have been so mismanaged for so long. There is no way that a real, true, foundational, meaningful fix can happen without there being some discomfort for a period of time. And while some people may say, well, I care about people who are harmed by that, well, then you should really care at the prospect of it only getting worse and worse and worse over time with no end in sight. Because without somebody taking a serious attempt to fix it and making some serious changes, that is the inevitable outcome. Social Security is a perfect example. People sit around and, oh, well, we can't adjust Social Security in any capacity whatsoever because I care about people, really? Then you can tell them in 35 years, or however far down the road it ends up being, and it goes totally bankrupt and there's nothing left at all, you can go explain that to them and how much you cared about them and didn't want any minor alterations made, but now you have nothing whatsoever. Now, is that really compassion through action? It might at the time make us feel good, but that's not long-term what's best for the average person. When you have somebody in a horrific accident and they have to go through physical therapy, because if they don't, then their diminished physical state is going to continue to get worse, and the only option is to go to physical therapy, and that physical therapy is very grueling and it's painful, and you see it and you hate it for that person. Like, I hate that they're going through this, but you also understand what happens if they don't. That's where true compassion comes in. You don't blame the physical therapist. You don't blame the financial advisor who makes you take the steps necessary in order to get yourself back on track. If you are completely unhealthy and obesely overweight and you decide, I want to get my life back on track, and so you hire a personal trainer, and that is very grueling and painful and uncomfortable, you don't blame that person who's a physical trainer. Sometimes the fix is a little bit difficult. That's just reality. It would be fantastic. Wouldn't it be wonderful if the answer to fixing problems was just wonderful and everyone just immediately, everything was fantastic and there was no need to, in any way, shape, or form have to scale back or suffer because of decisions that were made in the past? I mean, if that were the case, we probably wouldn't have any problems whatsoever because it would be easy to fix everything. But it's part of the reason things don't get fixed. Because politicians know that if they take meaningful steps, like Trump is taking, that there are going to be people out there like, oh my gosh, the poor this and the poor that, I got to vote that person out. And then the problem just continues to get worse. Again, just reality. I understand. I get it. I don't like the situation that we're in either. But I also recognize that if it's going to get better, things have to change. And unfortunately, sometimes those things aren't exactly, birthday parties and unicorns. It's called life. Coming up, play audio of some blue-collar workers ecstatic at the announcement and the official announcement yesterday, Donald Trump, the tariffs. You believe these people actually exist? It's amazing. All of this stuff with the fixing of the economy in a meaningful way is I hate to use the term learning experience, but it really truly is. It's a gut check for people. It's an opportunity to really learn about real life. And the way that some people want this to work reminds me of the episode of The Office. I always find myself going back to that. But if ever there was a show that played off of sort of the absurdities of life based off of how normal people react to things oftentimes, but does it in a comical way. The Office just did such a great job of that.
Show.
Yeah. I mean, it really, when you look at some of the stuff that is, and there was one episode in particular in which Michael Scott realizes he's out of money. He is so in the hole. The money that is going out is much more than the money that's coming in. And part of the problem is his girlfriend, Jan, isn't working, and she is going out and, she's spending a lot of his money. And so he asked Oscar, the accountant, to help him. And It's so funny. Like, he spends money on magic sets and, all these just completely unnecessarily absurd things. And so Oscar eventually explains to me you have to declare bankruptcy. And so Michael's response to that is he goes out and he tells the office, he sort of yells, "I declare bankruptcy." And it has to be explained to him. No,
that's not how that works.
Yeah, it's not that easy. You don't just say it and then magically everything gets better. You have to make some real difficult changes. And there is a segment of the population that I think we would all like that. Nobody wants the pain that is associated with making meaningful changes. But there are some people who allow themselves to almost believe as if there is this magical path that, like Michael Scott did, just stand up and say, "I declare bankruptcy," and then magically everything is fine and you don't actually have to do anything. And unfortunately, that's just not the case. But, again, there is an episode. When you see a scene like that play out, everybody laughs because we think, now, what sort of idiot thinks that you don't actually have to do anything? All you have to do is just sort of acknowledge it and be like, "Oh, okay, now everything's going to be better." But don't we act like that as a society sometimes? Are we not like Michael Scott so often as a society if you watch these different storylines? Yesterday, during the announcement by Trump of Liberation Day, he invited up to the podium a union worker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I grew up just north of Detroit, Michigan, in Macomb County, known as the home of the Reagan Democrats. My first vote for president was for Ronald Reagan. I thought that was going to be the best president I ever saw in my lifetime until Donald J. Trump came along. I have watched my entire life, I have watched plant after plant after plant in Detroit and in the metro Detroit area close. There are now plants sitting idle. There are now plants that are underutilized. And Donald Trump's policies are going to bring product back into those underutilized plants. There's going to be new investment. There's going to be new plants built. And the UAW members, and I brought 20 of them with me, they're sitting right over here. We support Donald Trump's policies on tariffs 100%. So, Mr. President, we can't thank you enough. And in 6 months or a year, we're going to begin to see the benefits. I can't wait to see what's happening 3 or 4 years down the road. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, then there was I think this was, I didn't recognize the gal. Let's see, Fox Business host Elizabeth McDonald, the show The Evening Edit. And she spoke with a couple of different longtime union workers on this issue.
To you, what was your reaction to the president's announcement on tariffs today? What do you think?
Very excited about it. A lot of my brothers and sister steel workers, like Brian, were very excited about it because we saw what it did back in 2018. It definitely made a difference in the market. It held back all the influx of all the stuff coming over from everywhere else. Saved a lot of jobs. Did a lot of good for us. As an American, just as a country, it did a lot. But for the steel industry, it definitely helped us.
So what Matt just said, James, is it promises made and promises kept by Trump? We know that blue-collar workers are moving to the Republican Party. They feel abandoned by the Democrats. Do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%, 100%. We have been told this lie for years that, NAFTA was great and all these different plans after that. And all we've seen is bleeding jobs. I have 26 years and 8 plants because a lot of those plants closed. And a lot of those plants closed under, Democratic leadership. If you can remember, NAFTA was crafted originally by the Bush family and then turned around and Clinton signed it into law. And it was the biggest bloodbath we ever had of losing our jobs, and we never recovered from it. And Trump is the first time I've ever seen a reverse of that and actually jobs coming back into our country. And better than 65% of the membership support him, and probably closer up to 70 now because they're starting to see results from that.
There is such a massive chasm between what is happening to average Americans in this country across the spectrum, good and bad, and what the elites think is important. And you listen to these people, and it's a pretty consistent theme amongst those, particularly in the auto industry, the steel industries, these blue-collar workers, about how for the first time in their lifetime, finally a president is doing this stuff. But then you listen to like Cory Booker, Frank Luntz, the Democratic pollster, was on with, I forget which show he was on. I think it was on, well, it's irrelevant. But he claimed that after watching that 24, 25 hours, however long that Senator Booker went on and on talking, that is changing the course of politics. I'm like, do you know how few people even know who that guy is? How many what, you really think that Cory Booker standing up and rambling on about how awful Donald Trump is the sort of thing that blue-collar workers care about? Are you not listening to them? Do you think any of these people that are cheering this, that are in these industries that are going to benefit from these tariffs, whether they stay in place or they end up going away because industries move here to the United States, or there's an equitable relationship that's created out of it? But do you think they care that Cory Booker is standing there complaining about Donald Trump for 20 plus hours in the Senate? It is as if the elites are becoming more elite, and Donald Trump is every day, to a greater degree, solidifying the average American behind him as the average American's president. We're going to get a traffic update more in moments. I'm Nick Reed. Someone had asked, well, what happens next time a Democrat becomes president? Will they undo all of this? Well, potentially. I think the hope of the Trump administration and Donald Trump is that this reset will be so foundationally profound that it will be very, very difficult to undo, that there will be such a significant influx of jobs, that sucking sound. There will be jobs coming into the United States, as opposed to that sucking sound, which has long been synonymous with jobs leaving the United States, and that some of these states, Michigan, you've got the Detroit. You have some of these areas that have been Democrat strongholds because the Democrat Party has long been associated with the working person. That Trump's moves here are going to be meaningful enough and just so outside of just drastic enough that the days of Democrats being the party of the blue-collar worker will be so completely over. Now, it's very clear to a large degree that has already occurred. But that legacy, to really, really 100% shift it, there's got to be some real drastic things that happen. I mean, say the black vote, for example, Trump obviously making historic gains, particularly with black men and their shift away from the Democrat Party, but he clearly doesn't have a majority. It's not like, oh, the Republican Party is now the party of the black person. But I suspect that what he is aiming to do is to make such improvement in those areas that there is a shift, a fundamental shift, where the Republican Party is seen as, or at least as president, he is seen as the working man's party. And I'm telling you, I'm not a blue-collar worker, never have been, but you listen to these guys and gals, and they are truly saying, I mean, they talk about how, past presidents, Republican and Democrat, they've heard it over and over and over again. From Bush to Clinton to Obama, they all talk about bringing jobs back. They all talk about these different policies that are supposed to be good for the working person, but every single time, jobs go away to other countries. And that one union worker articulated that this is actually the very first president ever in my lifetime as a blue-collar union worker in which he's actually bringing the jobs back. And, that I just, there's never in my lifetime been a president that has so clearly been the working person's president in terms of results as Trump. Today, your last chance to get registered to win a pair of tickets to Christian County Lincoln Days. April 12th, I'll be the MC. Other speakers, Attorney General Andrew Bailey. There'll be a sheriff's forum with Sheriff Brad Cole, America's Sheriff Mark Lamb. I was actually at Walmart yesterday, and someone came up and they said, "Oh, sorry, that interview with Mark Lamb, that didn't happen." I said, "Actually, it did. It did today, Monday or whatever day it was scheduled. He was stuck on a flight, and so we bumped it to the next day. If you missed it, of course, we have the podcast section up. But he's got a big support fan base out there, and he is going to be one of the speakers at the Christian County Lincoln Days. $60 a person for a ticket. So those pairs of tickets will be $120 in value. You can register to win them by texting the word Lincoln to the Pyramid Roofing Company. Talk and text line 447-KSGF. There is a KSGF table, and that accommodates 8 people, so we'll have 4 different winners. And today is the last day to get signed up by text on that. And their website, if you want to buy tickets, ccrccmo.com. Big reminder is we're in April 29th, the big grand opening of the brand new showroom floor for our good friends at Pinnaker Honda, South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn, where you can get the new Honda HR-V for just $299 a month. $320 a month gets you a brand new 2025 Civic. And you can check out the all-new 2026 Honda Passport. You think you know what it looks like. Totally new, redesigned, much more rugged look. Got the outdoorsy feel to it. And they have it there for test driving. Now, I mentioned, of course, their big grand opening. They are still open. You may drive by and think, oh, look at all the renovations going on. But they are still open with all those brand new Hondas to check out. And every Friday they have food trucks. So if maybe it's a lunch break thing for you, that'll work out nicely. For Pinnaker Honda, there on South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. Chrissy Fulnecki with us. We're going to check in with her, and I'm sure she's going to have all sorts of enlightening conversation for us. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see showers with a high near 60. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms with a low around 48. For your Friday, rain with a high near 62. And on Saturday, showers with a high near 53.
probably be me too, though.
Hey, everyone, it's Chrissy Fulnecki.
Yes, good morning. Happy Liberation Week.
Yeah, liberation.
Yes. I think it's so funny that he didn't do it on April Fool's, though.
Deliberately. Right?
Yeah, he kept saying he wasn't doing it on that day, but...
And I had read that he didn't do it on that day just because he didn't want people...
I think it's a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about the visuals of that, I mean, you might as well have, like, jets flying over. I mean, it was pretty spectacular.
People can say what they want about him, and they will.
Oh, yeah, they do, right?
But objective people, particularly Democrats, have got to recognize the profoundly seismic shift in what is going on in this country when you have a Republican president up there with all of these union people in the audience clapping, applauding, that are saying this is for the first time, and we played audio of some interviews as well, people that are in steel industry, automobile industry, that have said for them, this is the first president that actually is doing what he said he would do in terms of the results. Right. There were a couple of different guys, and they were saying that, and a lot of them cited the beginning of Bush and the beginning of NAFTA, and then Clinton carrying it on, implementing it and everything, and that every time a new president, Republican or Democrat, would come into office, that they would talk about, oh, well, we're going to do this because it's going to result in more jobs and jobs coming back to the U.S. He said, but that never happened.
Yeah.
My entire career, I see plants closing. I see this closing. And, that phrase about that giant sucking sound being jobs going out of the U.S., he said, this is the first president in my lifetime. And he noted we saw it some in the first term, and we're going to start seeing it again, in which it's actually happening.
Yeah.
And that, for a lot of people, even those that may not like certain things about Trump, recognize about Trump that there are certain things that every president, regardless of political party, claims. But Trump is the one that actually seems to make these things happen. Cutting wasteful spending is one of them.
Yeah, right.
I mean, every president I've ever known, they talk about, and that includes Democrats. Oh, they'll even have these big ceremonial presentations about we're going to cut this. Doge is just a rename for something that was created by Obama in order to cut out wasteful spending and bloated government. And no one actually ever does it. Oh, everyone applauds him. It's so wonderful. But let's all just pretend. Let's not actually do it. And then the one guy that does it, and now you've got domestic terrorists in the Democrat Party going after citizens just because they drive a car that they were told to drive 2 years ago by the very people who are now attacking them for driving them.
Yeah. Well, part of the problem is that the Democrats didn't know how to do it, number one. And number two, it partly is because Trump, he has been a very successful business owner. But another part is all you have to do is ask industry what would spur growth, because people know they know in their industry what will help their specific industry. So I mean, it's not a surprise that he got all the swing states, because I mean, if you go to Pennsylvania and talk about fracking, if you go to Michigan, I mean the entire change of the landscape of Michigan to me has been very shocking politically. And my sister and my brother-in-law, they've lived there forever, and he's in the car industry. He's a mechanical or a sales engineer for a car company. And it is amazing how many conservatives there are there now, just after Trump's first term of working with, the manufacturers.
Well, and I think part of it's because they believe him on this stuff. And somewhat back to the previous point, I played at the opening of this show in the 6 o'clock hour a montage of news stories from when Biden was president announcing massive tariffs on China. And of course, the coverage was about, this was great for the American worker, it was great for the consumer. They never once talked, never in any of the stories did they talk about how that was going to cause the price to go up. No, it was going to keep China in check because they were subsidizing vehicles and other products in order to cause harm to our economy. So it was all painted as this good thing. The only cynical coverage or characterization coming out of it was noting that there was an upcoming election and that Biden had criticized Trump for tariffs, but now he was doing it because of the election. So 2 things were telling about that. Obviously, he felt that was going to be good for people. Why would you do it during an election? But Trump is for it and has always been for it and has always said this is something that can be a positive tool consistently. As opposed to, and I'm just like, how do some of these people rationalize supporting Biden when it's very, very clear that his policies and the Democrat policies, that they just flip-flop it based on any given day.
Yeah.
When Trump was president, Democrats were against tariffs. And then Biden becomes president, and all of a sudden he keeps the tariffs and he puts new tariffs in because they're good. Now that Trump's president again, tariffs are bad. It's like, how do you people rationalize going back and forth on this stuff? It's like they've resigned to actually caring about what matters and whether it works or not.
It's frustrating seeing Schumer talk about this.
Oh, I know.
This week and last week they've shown on some of the shows how all the Democrats had talked about, all the waste and fraud, and then now suddenly they care nothing about it. And it's so interesting how they don't know how to do things. I mean, they don't know how to problem solve. And they've shown Obama's clip about talking about this, when Trump was running and talking about the bringing manufacturing jobs back. And he said, well, how's he going to do that?
Yeah, it's going to magic wand.
Yeah, the magic wand. And
it happened.
I know. Yeah, really. I mean, you idiots. Well, it's, you would think that they would want what's best for the country, and they don't care.
And we've made this point. That's not to say that there aren't going to be some people that have experience unpleasant results, particularly short term, of this. I don't care what you do. When you're talking about something on a massive scale, it's not going to be 100% aces for everybody. That's just the way it is. But it's a matter of resetting the economy as a whole for a number of different reasons. And when you do that, ultimately, long term, more people benefit. And
it's so interesting because it takes a lot of courage to have something so big, like this big, display that it's obviously a marketing tool, stating of what is to come, because it is maybe a little, people think, well, is this going to happen? Because you might not see the effects until next year or the year after. So it takes a lot of courage for Trump to come out and say that this is what I'm going to do, but he also understands economics. And so, but I think it's great to have somebody in a leadership position that's going to go out there, and because, also too, companies have to plan years ahead of time. And so they're already planning, budgets for 3, 4, 5 years. And so, and obviously it'll take time for them to build plants and stuff or go back into existing plants.
Well, and that's a large part of it too, is a lot of these are existing plants already that have been abandoned because of previous policies. And so they're sitting there waiting. The infrastructure is fortunately there in a lot of capacities, and some of it's expansion. Some of these companies that have already announced, even prior to the implementation of the tariffs, that they were going to begin moving some of the manufacturing to the United States, that they were going to use existing facilities because a lot of times industries, they will build a facility larger than they need it at the moment because they anticipate expansion, so that they don't have to, so they don't lock themselves in and then are forced to have an infrastructure upgrade in order to expand. So they do it ahead of time in that anticipation. And so a lot of that, fortunately, is in place.
Yeah. I just think it's exciting. And we've talked before I've mentioned it about Robert Kiyosaki and Trump when they had written that book together, talking about how we have no middle class. And they've been saying this for, the shrinking in the middle class for 10 or 20 years. And this is something that will definitely create the middle class again. So, how could you be against that, for families? And I think it's great because the more that the liberals cry about it, it's just better for us.
And I love honest intellectual discussions about this stuff. Rand Paul, I disagree with his positions or his predictions on a lot of this stuff, but I think he comes from an intellectual perspective.
Yeah,
So I
he's
enjoy
not-
hearing his perspective. Jordan Peterson sat down with Polyev of the conservative leader in Canada, and they had a discussion about tariffs and about the U.S. and Canadian tariffs, and they're talking about it intellectually, and I enjoy that. The problem is, particularly for Democrats, because of the fact that when they're for tariffs when it's a Democrat, they're against it when it's Republican.
Right.
There's no point even listening to those people because they're not talking
Yeah,
about
it's
this in
just
an
drama.
intellectual way.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
just toddlers that are throwing a fit because they're not the one holding the lollipop.
You mean the biggest tantrum? I agree with what you were saying a little while ago about Cory Booker. I mean, nobody even knows who that guy is.
Yeah.
And I saw that. And I thought, what are you?
Oh, but
I mean, this is the
this is what
biggest temper tantrum I've ever seen from a Democrat.
But it's also what divides, and what the Democrats just don't get it. I'm watching Frank Luntz, and he talked about this is just changing the entire landscape of politics. I saw a promo on the Monitor earlier in which Stephen Colbert had a Cory Booker. So the left, in their minds, it's like Gavin Newsom doing a podcast or whatever. It's like, oh, here's something that's really going to change things. It's like people don't care about that.
Yeah.
They do not care about Cory Booker standing up and ranting for 25. If anything, that's exactly what people are tired of.
It's kind of like the sinking of the Titanic, that it's going down, and then anything that's going to save them, they get excited about it. They're like, nope, that's not going to work. Michelle Obama, her podcast, no, that's not going to work.
Oh, yeah, I
and
forgot
then
about
here
that
we're
one.
going down. Did you hear what she said yesterday or 2 days?
No, I didn't know it was still happening.
Yeah, yeah. They'll show clips. I mean, so it was something that her brother said, would you ever date a guy that's broke? And she said, oh, well, let me tell you, I did date a guy that's broke. That was my husband. And now how poor he was, and I thought every time they play a clip, she's bashing her husband.
Well, I mean, he wouldn't be anywhere without her.
I know, that's right.
You mentioned the Titanic thing, and it reminded me of a quote from a piece. Was it Politico? I think it was Politico, and it was a continued evaluation of how you have these Democrats that are more of the establishment party that are warning about how these new Democrats are completely wrecking it and continuing to make it less and less average person party with their extremism. And the person was quoted as saying, won't get it exact, but it was something along the lines of, he said, it's as if we're on the Titanic and they're sitting around arguing how many chairs to save for transgenders. That was a Democrat that said that. I thought, how true is that? It is so true. Christy Fulnecki with us. 1 minute break. We'll continue on here. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Lori Rook, you know her name. You've known her for some time, a friend of KSGF, Ozarks Elder Law. If you have anything at all, and you got family, even if it's just one family member, so you're thinking, well, I don't need to worry about planning for my ultimate demise, you are making a mistake. You leave behind an absolute train wreck potentially for family if you do not have a plan that is set up and coordinated and developed by the experts at Ozarks Elder Law. A lot of people think back in the good old days, a handshake, that was enough, a person's word, or, well, Paul wrote up on this napkin here his will and who he's leaving this to and that to and so forth. It just does not work that way any longer. Government gets involved. They drag it out for years and years, and you can unfortunately take what otherwise are your family members that get along and create a lot of uncomfortable friction. And that is all completely preventable. Ozarks Elder Law can talk with you about that consultation, get with them, and find out what it is you need to do so that when you're gone, you don't leave those months or even years for your family to bicker and fight and just create unnecessary circumstances. It's unfortunate that that's where we are in the world. That's just how it is. That's the reality of it. And Ozarks Elder Law is there to help navigate you through it, your family through it, and hopefully help you just not have those problems whatsoever. OzarksElderLaw.com. Christy Fonecki is with us.
Yes, good morning.
Hey,
and I do
hey.
want to say, since I'm an attorney too,
Oh, yes.
that I'm friends with Lori. She's great. She has a great law firm, and everyone should do this. I just actually had a case because I do a family guardianship, a lot of that. So it touches a little bit on that, but you would save your family so much in fighting, especially people think just when you die, but when you don't have capacity and then you have to go into a guardianship. I mean, I have a huge case about that right now. So it would be better if you could set your family up for the future.
Yeah, and that's so true about before you die.
Yes.
That can make things
and when you have capacity.
Yeah.
And when you have your faculties that you do it now, and they have and Lori's firms, she has multiple, I feel like I'm advertising for her, but I really like her. But she has multiple locations and she's very specialized. So she's good. If I have anything that's more complicated than my general practice, I send it to her.
She's
so
crazy, she's a crazy right winger too.
Oh yeah. And she ran for public office. And so, yeah.
Well, and I think what also happens a lot of times, people think, well, I don't need to worry about it too much because all my kids get along. Well,
don't ever assume anything.
Well, and maybe they do until that happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People, it's just better.
Well, and
it's
also, too, don't
better
assume that, I don't have a lot of money, that's not going to happen. If you have a house or anything, you need to do it. So
OzarksElderLaw.com.
Yes. You're welcome, Lori.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now that being said,
Okay.
traffic is standing by, and then we'll just take 90 seconds and we'll continue on.
That's
And I would like to, among other things, and you may have something you want to talk about, but there's a couple of different new books that are coming out. I love all of these Democrats that were out there a year ago talking about how Joe Biden was fit as a fiddle, and now they're all trying to make money off the fact that they knew he wasn't.
Yeah, right.
That
right.
I
saw that,
they're trying to make money off all their lies to the American people. Traffic, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Ozarks first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see showers throughout the day with a high near 60. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms with a low around 48. For your Friday, rain with a high near 62, and on Saturday, showers with a high near 53.
We have happy hour Friday. For those that want to attend, we'd love to have you there. We'll have Doobie Brother tickets to register for. They're going to be at Thunder Ridge Nature Arena.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so...
is that July, or when is that concert?
It is September.
Ooh.
Let's see here. I was trying to look for some good audio. Here's a good bit of audio as we're talking about a number of these different books that are coming out. These Biden insiders. These people really have no shame.
I know, they don't.
And here's why I'm saying that. This isn't partisan. If some people, anyhow, were in an industry and they were essentially committing fraud, like lying about their product out there, knowing full well that the product was faulty, and they went out there selling it and telling people, you trust us, give us money, give us what little you can. This is the greatest product ever. And then it was revealed that they were lying. Like they were lying the whole time. Total fraud, liars. Some people would go away in shame, right?
Yeah,
because they'd been caught and humiliated. Now, some people might write a tell-all, but as a confessional. I went through, this horrific time, and I've realized that I came to Jesus, and it was horrible what we did, and, this is a warning not to trust people like me in those positions. But these people, they have no shame at all. They're just like, oh, here's what was really going on.
Well, you have to add
no connection to ethics or honesty. No. Hey, yeah, we probably shouldn't have done that. That doesn't even cross their mind.
And the crazy thing is that these people are on camera, like literally lying. And most of the time that you're not in the public eye and people are seeing you on TV lie, but they are literally saying one thing and then they're lying and they're writing a book about it. And then it's so easy because then they show clips. Well, was this you? I mean, were you the one that was here saying the exact opposite thing like 2 years ago?
One of the books is Fight, Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House. It came out on Tuesday, and it's got two authors. One of them is The Hill's Amy Parnes, and she was on, I don't know if this is on NBC, but this is one of the networks where she talked about just one aspect of the book.
I think every Democrat has a theory where they saw President Biden not in the best terms. We detail, for instance, Congressman Swalwell, who was there looking at him. They came face to face at a congressional picnic, and the congressman had to cue Biden as to who he was. This is someone who ran against him in 2020. He's very vocal. He's out there. Someone like President Biden, in Biden's heydays, he would know who he was. He didn't know. We have other details in the book about a makeup artist coming in on his international trips to kind of prep him before meetings with foreign leaders.
I mean, I'd have makeup artists. Now that's
I heard that this week, yeah.
But she notes as if it's just acceptable that, every Democrat has a story about when they knew something was wrong with him.
And all these people are coming out of the woodwork now.
Yeah.
My favorite is about them putting tape on the ground to show them where to walk. It was like yellow tape. And then where to stand.
And listen, I understand, all politicians lie and all that sort of stuff. But that entire political party, how do you believe anything they say?
I know.
When they all were lying. Like she said there, every Democrat has. Swalwell, he realized Biden didn't even know who he was. I like how she described it. Well, in his heyday, he would have. In his heyday? You don't have to be in a heyday to recognize somebody that you're like, that's his heyday, is that he recognized someone that he knew?
I know. That's right.
That bar is very, very low.
It's over like 50 years ago. I'm sorry.
For Pete's sakes.
Well, they were showing, I think it was Jesse Waters or something, was showing Joe Scarborough, like everything that he had said.
Pathetic.
I know. And now he's coming out, like he's sharing all this insight that he had. And then they're showing clips of him saying that Biden was completely fine as early as just in March of last year. So just 1 year ago that you've changed your mind.
Joe Scarborough at one point declared that the Joe Biden we see today, this was just a year ago, is the sharpest, best Joe Biden that's ever. He went that far.
Yeah.
And here's what I always find to be somewhat remarkable. I know people are different. The way they operate are different. The way they choose to respond to things are, people are different. When Joe Scarborough announced that he was going to Mar-a-Lago to meet with Trump, the left, his base, they pitched a huge fit, right? They were just and we saw they talked about just the ratings took a massive hit because they were his viewers were revolting.
All three of them.
But you didn't revolt over the fact that you found out he was lying to you about Joe Biden's mental state, that he was knowingly going on television and telling you to support this guy because I know personally he's sharper than he's ever been. We know he was lying about that. That didn't bother you?
Well, and
he made you look like an idiot.
Well, and the average Democrat has got to be in total shock for the past 6 months because they were talking about how, everybody thought that they were going to win. And so all of these people, even people on Kamala's campaign, that they were all completely stunned. So can you imagine? If you look at it from our perspective, we've been listening to Gutfeld and you guys and everybody, so we all knew the state of Biden. But if you think about them and they're only watching those people, and all of a sudden now the past 4 or 5, 6 months, they're discovering all of this that happened. You have to be a complete idiot not to know yourself that your commander-in-chief is falling up a stairs trying to get into his own plane. So, that's kind of on you. But still, it's probably a shock to most of those people that
rationalization.
I've been listening to these people, and
rationalization is such a powerful thing, and what people can convince themselves of when the emperor has no clothes. That's really what we were dealing with the media and the Democrats and a lot of Democrat voters, and just how quickly they switched. They would total diehard. You Republicans are liars. He's perfectly fine. And then within 24 hours, Kamala Harris is the greatest thing ever. Yay, we love her. It's like, what cult are you in?
I know.
This is the weirdest thing.
It's like nobody even talks about her. I know.
There's another book, Uncharted, How Trump Beat Biden, Harris, and the Odds in the Wildest Campaign in History. An excerpt from that. Former White House Chief of Staff, Ron Klein, revealed that President Joe Biden was, quote, fatigued, befuddled, and disengaged before his debate with President Donald Trump in June. Quote, at his first meeting with Biden in Aspen Lodge, the president's cabin, author Chris Whipple wrote, Klein was startled. He had never seen him so exhausted and out of it. Biden was unaware of what was happening in his own campaign. Halfway through the session, the president excused himself and went off to sit by the pool. Whipple wrote, according to the excerpt, the president was fatigued, befuddled, and disengaged. Klein feared the debate with Trump would be a nationally televised disaster. The aspect of this that I find to be somewhat interesting is, now, remember back, this is the one debate that they had, right?
Right, in June.
But remember the whole week leading up to it, how they were making a deal over the fact that it was like a full week of prepping for it, and they had all of an 18-team person, and they kept showing visuals of this big hangar or something, and so you had different ways of looking at it. The Democrats and the media were seeing it as, this is just such an impressive, focused feat, and then Republicans were looking at what is going on, that this is what's now Trump versus Trump, who was like, I don't need to really prep for this thing, I'll just show up for it, and I remember Sarah and I talking about, I don't know if you remember this or not, Sarah, that you almost wonder, is this elder abuse? That because they were talking about 18-hour days, and they weren't, and with Biden, this guy is so now you wonder, what were they doing all that time? Were they just showing up to pretend as if this was because part of me wonders if they were thinking, well, we need to make it look like Biden has the rigor to go through a week of nonstop 18-hour days of prepping for a debate. That while it may be portrayed as he's concerned and worried, we're more concerned about Americans thinking that he's tired and can't handle it. And so this will demonstrate that. And did they just get there and then go out the back door and go about their day? That's what I want to know.
Remember too, though, thinking that people that were closest to him and some of his advisors were coming out saying, I wonder if he'll make it through this debate. So I think that they had this whole thing planned because it transitioned pretty fast after that debate. And so you kept thinking, because everybody kept thinking that Michelle Obama would come in even before that debate.
I never did.
Yeah. And well, I kind of did.
The Wampler from the grave did.
That's right. From the grave. From heaven, D. And so, it's going to be interesting to find out. I really want to know what happened last summer. I know that they've had these books and they've talked about whatever.
Well, here, let's get a traffic update because back to the book Fight Inside the Wildest Battle of the White House, there is an excerpt that, they slowly release these different excerpts. And I suspect some of these books will be, they will sell really well because of this sort of messiness of, everyone knows that they were lying about his state, but it's interesting. Okay, but how were they dealing with it internally? Because I want to know that.
Where he went when he was missing, because everybody thought he was dead. I thought he was dead in July last year, and I thought he was dead, and they kept showing all those pictures that he was showing up in different places.
Well, all right. So there's an excerpt after the traffic here that talks about Kamala Harris basically begging him to endorse her. Chrissy Volnecki with us. Another excerpt from the book Fight Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House. Former Vice President Kamala Harris, this is an excerpt, pleaded with former President Biden to endorse her White House bid on the same day as his historic move to end his 2024 re-election bid, according to the exclusive excerpts of the forthcoming book. You need to endorse me, Harris begged Biden in the moments before the ticket switch-up, as reported by The Hill's Amy Parnes and NBC News' Jonathan Allen. in excerpts from Fight Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House, set for release this last Tuesday. Harris, who would face a short runway to build momentum before the November election, knew she had Biden's support to take up the torch, but she wanted to avoid a bigger gap between his exit and his endorsement, which could have created an opening for a messy, contested nomination fight, as some key figures in the party hoped to pass her over. And what we've learned is Obama was one of those. He was working behind the scene to try to get her out of the picture.
Yeah.
Quote, she knew that if Biden stepped aside without explicitly backing her, it would be taken as a statement that he lacked confidence in her ability to win or to do the job, or both. That could mean crib death for a battle that she had not yet begun to fight. She also knew that a failure to throw his weight behind her would suggest that he had made the wrong decision in choosing her as his number 2 in the first place. According to Barnes and Allen, Biden called Harris in the hours before his exit to share his plans, and after checking whether the president was sure of his decision, she stressed the importance of timing his exit and endorsement together. Now listen to this. I'm telling you, I actually was taken aback with how manipulative what she said to him was. I didn't know she had. I underestimated her manipulative nature. Harris told her then boss, quote, "This is important for your legacy, to show that you have absolute faith in your VP." When Biden suggested waiting a couple of days after his exit to make the endorsement, Harris said too much daylight would risk mischief and confusion. So what she told him is that this isn't about me. See, if you don't, then they're going to think you made a mistake in picking me as vice president. So how manipulative.
Yeah, right.
To say this is about your legacy. It's not about, talk about elder abuse. Joe Biden needs Ozarks elder law is what. I mean, really, this is what that sort of to protect you from. She's sitting there like that's probably why the auto pin wasn't used for his resignation letter. She probably was holding his hand with the pin in it. It's like, now this is about you. You don't want people to think that you're an idiot, do you? No, you don't. Like, here, I'll help you sign it. Just here we go. Good, Joe. Good, Joe.
Oh, wow.
How just these people are soulless.
No, and I don't know why they waited so long to flip on him, because there could have been any point in time, any of the number of falls that he had, that they could have pushed him out then. I mean, he fell off a bike. I mean, he was walking around seeing the Easter Bunny. He was falling upstairs. Yeah. So they could have picked, why did they wait until the debates of the summer before the election? I mean, if they really wanted to have a primary, they could have done it a long time ago. So, I don't know. Maybe just Joe and go. But the real bad person in all this, I don't know. It's like to try to choose who's the most evil is Jill Biden.
Yeah, the whole family is
just.
These are horrible people.
Husband go through that. And then just like, go on and on and on.
Just allow it to continue.
Yeah. And then because you're leading him around. Well, and a lot of wives do that, if their husbands are, having dementia and stuff. But he's the president of the United States.
Given so we know so much about the relationships in that family because of the laptop and the text messages, and they're just horrible at each other. Horrible to each other. And I'm not just talking about sleeping with each other's widows and all that stuff, but the way that Hunter Biden in particular would talk about Jill, use the C word all the time to describe her, and mad because Joe Biden, complaining about him taking a cut of the Chinese money, the 10% for the big guy. These people, all they ever saw each other, not as loving family members, but how can I get something out of you? That's the only purpose that they served with one another. And but you honestly think, how is Joe Biden going to be treated in those moments now that he's not only useless to them, but a burden?
Yeah, right.
He's no longer a revenue source for them. He serves no purpose. And if they have the means to hire help, that'll probably be the best thing for him. Otherwise, this is a sort of family that would leave somebody like him sitting in his own feces, in his own filth,
right.
For days at a time. And I really 100% believe that, based off of how they have treated each other over the years.
Straight up evil. I'm just so glad they're gone. I mean, from the drugs and the dysfunctional. Just think
But
of everything
Joe
that was going on.
Biden's such a family man. Given what we know and how they treat each other, you think about that idiot Claire McCaskill
Oh, I know.
putting her credibility on the line, saying the only reason that Republicans don't like because that family just loves each other so much. I'm like, man, if that's how you think love is demonstrated in a family, I feel sorry for her family. I wonder what goes on in her house.
Sexual abuse, Claire.
That's yeah.
I can't wait for the stories about the snipping the hair of the children's stories.
I want some of his staff. I want some of these people to take that next step.
Cases that sexual abuse is like 80 or 90% from generation to generation. I mean, it's a very high percentage. And when I first saw him doing that, years ago, I thought there is something. And then the stories about the daughter and Hunter and everything. I mean, that is just
that's the behind the scenes stuff I would really like to know. Whenever, because there had to be discussions when her diary was found.
Yeah.
And she admitted it was her diary in the case against the person who took it. She testified about it. So there's no question it's her diary. When it was revealed that she talked about how her dad, Joe Biden, would crawl into the shower with her at an inappropriate age. And this was a diary that she was writing because of her drug abuse that she attributed to sexual abuse. Right. So she's writing about her dad crawling into the shower. Most people probably don't even know that because, of course, protect Joe Biden at all costs. But when that stuff, what were the conversations that these people had? Because at the very least, they had to talk about, okay, gosh, is this going to be picked? Is the media going to ignore this or cover this? If they do cover this, what are we going to do? Do we turn on her? Do we call her a liar? Do we have, because that the family, that's what they do to each other anyway. I would love to know what those conversations were like.
And all the substance abuse and I would like to know everything about when they discovered the cocaine at the White House and everything that happened around that. I mean, those are the things I want to hear. That Democrats are going to lie and whatever, but I want to see who's involved in that. But I really do want to find out if he almost died or maybe he did and that's somebody else. But
and there was even that flight to Vegas. There was a couple weeks, where they notified a local hospital, I think, that they were going to.
It was like a long time. It was 7 or 10 days or something. Yeah. It was a long time, and he hadn't appeared. And then he made that strange phone call when Kamala was doing the press conference, and to try to support her.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, "Is that really
AI?"
His voice? Yeah.
Right.
And
hopefully, a couple of these books will be big money makers, and then other people will be like, "Oh, I'm going to one up that. I know this story, and I know," and so they'll start really revealing some good stuff. More with Christy Fulnecki in moments. I'm Nick Reed. Well, Sarah's questioning whether Biden's alive now.
Has anybody seen him lately?
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
I was creeping on his social media. Not that he runs it, but
Right.
I was just curious. Nothing.
I know.
I mean,
bet he
it's
died.
like-
I bet you he died last summer.
I think last summer.
We take him to
Well,
the
he was at the
Celtics.
inauguration.
Well, it was probably somebody else. I know. Can you imagine? It'd probably be hard to find
One
that
of
out.
One of
I mean,
those
we
Biden
still know
impersonators.
it. Yeah. I mean, and this is, I know I don't have time, but I thought like when they released all the JFK stuff that there would be like one line. It said, the CIA killed JFK. And I keep watching it. I'm like, why is anybody just saying that?
It was going to be an Oscar envelope. Like, you open it up, it says, the CIA. Oh, no, 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 no.
Just get it over with. Can you guys not read faster? I'm like, really?
Epstein's what I'm still waiting on. Like, what?
Yes.
Guys, come on.
The next thing we need to ask, if somebody knows Trump, if anybody's listening, and if Burleson's listening, please ask him to find out if Biden died last summer.
I want him to get on Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everybody's so focused on UFOs. What about Bigfoot?
Well, that's the next thing. After
What if they're
UFOs.
connected? What if Bigfoot was a alien that got left behind?
Yeah.
Or they kicked him out. They're like, man, Frank is such a pain. Let's just...
Maybe he's living at the White House with the Bidens.
Maybe he's the one that left that cocaine.
Well, if so, I bet he died in Afghanistan. Chrissy Filnecki, everyone, as always. Thank you. We got Author of the Week in the upcoming hour, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Springfield Talk 1041. My name is Nick Reed. Tomorrow morning, we will have the Friday Road Show at Scramblers, sponsored by Shirley's Heating and Air. We will have happy hour at Retro Metro from 4 to 6. Have a pair of tickets to see Doobie Brothers live at Thunder Ridge Nature Arena coming up in September. We'll have the tickets on hand, so if you are interested in winning a pair of those, just come by and get yourself registered and signed up for it. We will draw that at 6 o'clock, and the winner will have tickets in hand as soon as that drawing takes place. We have Author of the Week coming up, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Dennis Neal, the author of The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk, which, interesting take. There's the genius, obviously, of Elon Musk. But oftentimes, somebody who's a genius doesn't necessarily mean that they're a good leader. And plenty of good leaders aren't geniuses. And oftentimes, people that are in that stratosphere of intelligence, because their brains work so differently, they aren't necessarily great at reading cues of other people, and that is so often seen as the key to good leadership. So to be in that stratosphere of intelligence while at the same time exhibiting leadership qualities is I guess it's unusual. I mean, it just seems counterintuitive. Anyhow, so it's interesting that is what the book focuses on, and we'll have that Author of the Week coming up here in just a couple of moments. Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, hunterhardscapes.com, premier landscaping service in Ozark. Listen, you've seen before, you got your hardscaping, and if you don't know what hardscaping is, it's like the infrastructure. You got the really nice patio and platform. You have the built-in fire pit. It's the sort of thing that turns your outdoor area into an actual living space. You're essentially expanding the square footage of your home into the outdoor, whether it's entertaining or just for your own relaxation, and it's something that some people do DIY. It's something that a number of different companies that maybe do 8 or 9 different things, that happens to be one of them. And yeah, it'll be a space that you can sit on and put lawn chairs on, and maybe, one of those store-bought fire pits. But then there's premier services, and that's Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. You can see some of the work they do on their website. If you're looking for the absolute top quality, this is who you want to go with. Whether it is that outdoor living space, sod insulation, garden bed construction, lighting, drainage, they do it all. And you can get consultation. They're great people. Daniel is somebody I've known for several years now, and really, really, really grateful to have them be part of KSGF. So those of you who are looking to have that done, the expansion of your home or your business in that way, but have it done in a premier fashion, now you can with Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoors. The website is hunterhardscapes.com.
And the first alert forecast from Ozark's first meteorologist, Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see showers throughout the day with a high near 60. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms with a low around 48. For your Friday, rain with a high near 62. And looking ahead to Saturday, we'll see showers with a high near 53.
Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. It's Thursday, which means it is Author of the Week. Sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Our author, Dennis Neal, award-winning journalist, media strategist, advisor to senior executives, and host of What's Bugging Me podcast, former anchor at CNBC and at Fox Business Network after serving as a senior editor at the Wall Street Journal and managing editor of Forbes. His book, The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. And I think this is, the title, the book is interesting because a lot of people recognize Elon Musk as being a genius, but oftentimes being a genius not only doesn't make you a good leader, but can make you a really bad one. And so I don't know that a lot of people, because of how brightly he shines as someone who people think of as a genius, they never even think about the leadership aspect of Elon Musk. So I think that's a really interesting take on this. And that being said, what made you decide to focus on that leadership aspect of Elon Musk?
Well, when we stand there and watch jaws agape as this guy accomplishes so much in so many different fields, other amazing characters in our history, Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, Edison. I mean, they've largely been good at one particular thing. Elon has been good at about half a dozen different things. So there must be some underlying substrate that can explain the success more than just brilliance. And part of it does fall down to leadership. When they're trying to get the Model 3 Tesla out on time because he set an impossibly difficult deadline to get up to 5,000 vehicles per month production, I think it was, or something. He slept on the factory floor in Fremont, California for the better part of 3 months because he wanted his employees, he said later, his workers, to know that he was willing to suffer every bit as much as they were suffering to get this job done. And a lot of leaders don't get so deeply involved in the microcode the way this guy does. And he does lead by example. And he does, the book, Nick, has 11 lessons of Elon, one lesson per chapter. And one of the lessons says most people are loafers, work harder than you ever have before, because we're using these lessons, I'm arguing, to build a better life for ourselves. And Elon works harder than anyone else. When he started on that Doge cutting, he pointed out that most federal employees are staying at home, right? There's an energy department building that houses 4,800 employees. And in 2023, every day, an average of only 89 employees were in that building. So federal workers are staying at home. They're not working. They're not doing anything. And they certainly don't work 7 days a week. And he pointed out that he's going to be able to cut that $1 trillion he wants to cut out of a $7 trillion budget. Is only 14%. He can do it faster because they're working 12-hour days, 7 days a week. And they are making some progress. And look at all the opposition that this has inspired. I never thought so many people would stand up against the idea of cutting fat and waste from the government budget. That's our money.
Where did he come from? I don't mean geographically, but what made him the way that he is?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about this because, these radio interviews are so great for a longer format and a chance to really think and ask deep questions the way you do. And when I was an anchor on CNBC and Fox Business, I tried to keep my bites down to 12 or 20 seconds and ping pong back and forth as much as possible. So I think he's driven by three things, right? Of course, there's that deep brilliance and intelligence, right? But I also think there's this drive for, you guys are doubting me, and I'm going to prove myself to you. I'm going to prove everyone wrong. I'm going to pick out bold dreams. That's another lesson in the book. Dream huge and be willing to spend decades in pursuit of it. I'm going to pick out impossible goals that no one else dare try because they're so afraid of failure. Elon embraces failure. Failure is a necessary step on the way to success. And that's another lesson of the book is it's better to launch and burn than never to launch at all. So he's got this need to kind of prove everyone wrong, and I'm going to show you. And I got some of that myself too, so I kind of identify with it. And then third of all, he's desperate for the approval of strangers. He wants to be loved. The great biographer Walter Isaacson did that incredible 688-page book, Elon Musk, and he talks about that, him being an outcast at school and estranged from his father, and that need to be loved drives all human beings, and I think it's especially readily apparent in him, which is why right now it must be so hard for him to be hated by so many.
We're talking with our author of the week, Dennis Neal, the book, The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. It seems to me, that Trump has this almost, I don't know if it's admiration or affection for Elon Musk that, at least publicly, is displayed to a greater degree than any other sort of relationship that he's had. And I wonder if, I just want your thoughts on this. I thought that it was probably just because Elon Musk is, a really hard worker and successful, and Trump likes to surround himself with people that are going to get things done successfully. But one of the things that I've always thought separated Trump from most people is that he was unreasonable in a positive way, unreasonable expectations. It was just do it, just get it done. Things that everyone else would never even attempt because it would be too difficult. Trump did not let that stop him. And Elon Musk appears to operate that same way, that there is no. So I'm wondering how much of it is because of that.
Well, you know what? They are simpatico, aren't they? And you've put your finger on it. The conclusion in my book, The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk, talks about how is it these two guys came together. And, there's that old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And these two men are hated by the same groups of people, the media, the dimwit Democrats, super libs, the ridiculous protesters. They're both decried by the same people. And they both set impossibly difficult goals, because even if you fail to get all the way there, you get twice as far as you would have gotten if you set a more reasonable goal. I think there's a real mutual admiration. But then there's this one other element, that the White House has never said anything. The Trump family's never confirmed it, but there's speculation out there that Barron Trump himself may be on the spectrum in some way, Asperger's, the way Elon Musk has said that he is. You'll see some of this video of Elon. He's at some Mar-a-Lago group dinner, and suddenly he's looking at two forks and how they intersect and click on each other, and he's just staring at it in space, and he's totally removed from the conversation. And so maybe there's something extra there where it's so good for Barron Trump to see Elon Musk change the world for the better, and almost benefit from his Asperger's approach. Who knows? Maybe there's something going on there as well.
Yeah, we're talking with our author of the week, Dennis Neal, the book Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. Most Americans are familiar with Tesla. They are familiar with the purchase of Twitter and SpaceX as well. But they're not familiar with some of his other endeavors that maybe they are familiar with, just that he's associated with them. They may not know that. Do you get that sense as well, that there's just a huge missing bit of knowledge that Americans have about all of the things that he's done?
I think they may lose track, Yeah. They may lose track, and because sometimes they'll start a company with a simple joke. This guy, people have raised hundreds of millions of dollars of investor money pursuing ideas that Elon just came up with and didn't even kind of do anything on his own. The whole hyperspace loop, this idea of sending packages between LA and San Francisco at 400 miles an hour in an empty vacuum tube underground, and then cars that could travel 200 miles an hour when the packages aren't traveling. That all just came from an idea off the top of this guy's head. The Neuralink brain chip. That's the other thing, Nick, is that I think I see one dream in Musk, and then I realize when I do more research that it's tenfold bigger than I thought. The neuro chip. There's 2 human beings right now on the planet with chip, embedded communications going on in their brains right now. And the first guy said that he'll just clobber anyone else in video games because it's so fast, because he's controlling that cursor on the screen. So I thought, so this is to help paraplegics, right? Well, no. You then find an interview of Elon some far off place where he thinks in 20 years, millions of us could have these chips to help us communicate faster with AI, not just so that we can walk, no, but so we can communicate, because AI communicates in quadrillion instructions per second at that level, and we communicate only 1 million. So for AI talking to us, it's like it's asking a tree for an answer and having to wait forever for any response at all. But a brain chip would suddenly clear that gap. I had no idea that was the ultimate purpose. Same thing for going to Mars. He doesn't just want to go to Mars. After that, he wants to then go to a moon of Jupiter, and from there into the asteroid belt and get multi-planetary. So none of his dreams are themselves just that dream, which is big enough. They're even bigger than we realize.
He seems to me to view things differently than most people do, and ultimately, this is just my perception. I want to get your thoughts on it. Unaffected by the emotional things that affect most people, and so I wonder how almost odd it is to him to tackle subject matter such as Doge, for example, that should be. It's a no brainer. Right? This is an absolute no-brainer. There should be no controversy over this whatsoever. Yet finding that you have an entire political party, a media, you have Americans that are railing against him for doing something that might be reasons that are incomprehensible to him. Like, why wouldn't anyone want to do this? Do you think that he has that sort of perplexed nature about him in which it escapes him why people would be opposed to doing some of this stuff?
Right. That kind of Asperger's on the spectrum bluntness, it does allow him to maintain singular focus and filter out all the noise around and all of the conventional wisdom or the conventional response, and he simply doesn't care about it. One theme I explore in the book is, does greatness require being a jerk? Telling people off? I mean, if you look at it, Steve Jobs was kind of a jerk to people. Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Gordon Ramsay, the chef. Does he have to be such a jerk to people? And you begin to wonder, is that a necessary requirement of achieving greatness? You got to be willing to step on toes and break glass and crush egos along the way. But there's another lesson in the book, and that is that, the highest nail, like the old saying goes, the highest nail gets pounded down first. So Elon just straps on a helmet. He doesn't care. And that lesson 4 pairs with that. And it says, tease your critics and torture your enemies. And Elon does that in spades. Short sellers lost collectively $60 billion in recent years betting against Tesla. And he just tortures those short sellers because they're bad for capitalism. They're bad for the markets. And they hurt individual investors with illegal tactics often. And Elon is one of the very few CEOs ever to stand up and take them on directly.
The title of the book, Leadership Genius of Elon Musk, some may see it and think, well, this is aimed more at people who are geniuses themselves, not for the average everyday person looking to learn leadership skills. What do you say to those folks?
Oh, this has 11 lessons that can help all of us build a better life or feel better about the life we have. Because today, a lot of us are shopping for umbrage. We live in disappointment. We live, like that famous poet said, those lives of quiet desperation. And we don't take risks, and we don't love out loud, and we don't reach out far enough. We've given up. And yet it doesn't have to be that way. You can at least, if you cannot change events that have happened and things that are bad, you can change how you choose to view these events. And Elon, the opening lesson of the book, says, all of this may be fake, so just go for it. Elon thinks the chances are very good that we could be inside an incredibly advanced video game thousands of years from now, right now, indistinguishable from reality. And if that might be true, even a chance, it could allow you to change the way you live. You might as well go for it because it could all be a game for someone's entertainment anyway.
The book, The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk, our author of the week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Dennis Neal, Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Like all of our Author of the Weeks, ABC Books North Glenstone, of course, sponsoring, but that's also where you can get these books. A lot of times the books are back order, hard to find, but no one does a better job of getting a hold of them than the folks over at ABC Books. So I definitely recommend that. That you make that your go-to book place. They're very good people as well. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Reminder as we get to rolling, and Emily has talked to us about how just literally the day after the election, the phones were ringing off the hooks. Just amazing what a difference an election can make. And, we're months, obviously, into the new presidency, and whatever is going to come, you may need to buy a new home. And it still is a pretty rapidly moving market. She talked to us about this last week. It may not be a house in 30 seconds has people making offers over the selling price. But if you think you're going to be able to mull over things for a week, you could be poorly mistaken, especially if it's a pretty good home and a pretty good buy. The one thing that is certain is that when it comes to having that person on your side that's going to help you nail it down, or if you're looking to sell your home, you need Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Absolute go-to. I recommend you read her reviews. I personally recommend her. I've utilized her, not nearly to the capacity. We're on different ends of the spectrum in terms of usage. 2 years she helped Sarah and her husband find a home. That much time. And others have had similar experiences, that she is the one anchor there that sticks with it, and hell or high water gets you where it is you need to go and what it is you're looking for without cutting any corners. So if you want that on your side, the absolute best, buying a home, selling a home, then you want Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Don't forget, tomorrow morning we do have our Friday Road Show at Scramblers, and it is sponsored by Shirley's Heating and Air. And then we do also have a happy hour at Retro Metro, 4 to 6. We will have on site a pair of tickets to see the Doobie Brothers at Thunder Ridge Nature Arena coming up in September, and we'll have a registration box. We'll draw at 6 o'clock, and whomever's name is drawn will walk away with those tickets. That's Retro Metro tomorrow, 4 to 6.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Ozarks first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see showers throughout the day with a high near 60. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms with a low around 48. For your Friday, rain with a high near 62. And looking ahead to Saturday, we'll see showers with a high near 53.
Okay, I got to figure out which microphone here. Caitlin, you came in tired, and now I feel tired also. You drained it out of me. Caitlin Pack, which means it's Springfield Symphony time. The weather's got you feeling cozy, tired.
Yeah,
You said it's starting to rain outside.
It is.
I guess I could look directly out the window.
Yeah, but
Let's see.
it's weather, but it's nice and cozy weather for me, so I just want to bundle up and stay inside.
Yeah.
But you can also do that at the Symphony this weekend.
Yes, indeedy do. So what comes to the symphony?
Yes, so this is we only have 2 concerts left this season. It's kind of crazy how fast things go through. So this one is called My Reverie. It's basically going to be an evening of more small symphonic works.
Okay.
So it's going to be a smaller orchestra than you're used to seeing on stage. You're used to seeing like 60, 70, 80 people sometimes. This one's actually going to be, I think, more around like 50. So it's going to be a lot more intimate. It's mostly string instruments, and all the pieces are kind of just special in that way, that they're really focused on the strings and the classical music. So we'll be doing some Bach, which will be featuring some of our musicians here in town. We don't have any guest artists this time, so we're really kind of leaning on our amazing musicians that we employ. And then we have a really cool piece from Caroline Shaw. It's kind of the newer classical work. And then, of course, we have Mozart and Schubert, which are 2 very well-known symphony composers. I'm really excited to have this program for everybody. So it's going to be a real fun, intimate, cozy evening for us all.
And then the final one's just a few weeks away.
Yes,
right?
our last one is May 3rd, and that's with our St. Louis Ballet collaboration.
Oh, nice.
So that one's called Swanderful. And it's going to be a bunch of like jazzy. So it's not going to be like we've done in the past, like Cinderella and Snow White or any of those story ballets we've done with them in the past. But this one's going to be more kind of jazzy, upbeat kind of styles. It's going to be a different little thing that we haven't had before. It's going to be fun.
And I imagine, of course, your background ballet, are these particularly
They're some
you
of my
look forward
favorites to do.
Yes.
Yeah. They're definitely something I love that we have a partnership with.
All right, so for Saturday's Behind the Baton?
Yeah, so we have a Behind the Baton actually tonight. So that'll be 5:15, 5:30-ish at First and Calvary Church. Kyle will be there talking all about his musical influence on the show. And then the show is 7:30 this Saturday. Tickets are always at our website, springfieldmosymphony.org, or they can go to Hammond's Hall box office.
Are you all already working on the next season?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We are very excited. We'll be announcing that season probably in May.
All right.
So we've got a lot of things working on the background. And so while we're finishing up this season, for me, for marketing, I'm already ahead of everything. So it's really exciting. I'm very excited about this upcoming season. I hope everyone else will be too.
All right. Well, I know we look forward to it.
Yay.
All right. Well, of course, as always, we'll get all that info up on our social media and sites and everything. Caitlin, it's always great to see you.
Same to you.
All right. Have a fantastic rest of your day and weekend.
Yes, it'll be a great one.
Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Someone had sent in on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line a link to an article, KRCG.
Okay.
Missouri Department of Conservation hosts Bradford pear tree buyback event. And so it reads as follows. Bradford pear trees were in full bloom in our neighborhoods along roadways and on farms. Missouri property owners could get a free native Missouri tree if they cut down a Bradford pear. The Missouri Department of Conservation partnered with several organizations to host a Bradford pear tree buyback event. State conservationists say Bradford pears are highly invasive trees. that multiplied quickly and crowded out native Missouri trees and plants. Bradford pear tree flowers may look pretty, but they have a foul smell, which I never knew that.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know they had a foul smell.
Yeah.
Huh. I guess I've never smelled one. What do they smell like? What is it like a
I don't know how to really describe it, but it's
like Bradford pears.
That's exactly what it smells like. It's unpleasant.
It says some varieties have thorns. State conservationists say Bradford pear trees created problems for landowners and wildlife. Bradford pear tree branches often break easily during storm. A lot of this people know, and they're invasive and so forth. State conservationists urge Missouri property owners to take advantage of their Bradford pear tree buyback event. Missourians who registered for the event could get their replacement native tree on Earth Day, April 22nd, in several communities across the state, including Columbia, Jeff City, Moberly, and Rolla. Quote, the registration is between March 17th and April 17th. Folks will go online and register. They will need to provide a photo of their cut-down Bradford tree before the buyback event on April 22nd. Now, I don't know why, I don't want to say this is misleading, but, well, okay, let me tell you what I have actually seen happen. Maybe I'm thinking about experiences in the past. I've been to events where I believe it was Missouri Department of Conservation just gave out saplings. You know, where you could just get them. It seems like lawn and garden shows or, and when I don't know, for whatever reason, when I see a headline, a buyback program, I don't know, it kind of makes it seem like, are you going to cut the tree down for me? You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
So I just don't know that that's much incentive, I guess, to say, if you cut it down. It's just, I don't know, buyback. Here's the thing. Buyback just does not seem like the right word to use. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's just nitpicking. It doesn't matter either which way. Get a free tree of some sort that's native to Missouri and to get rid of Bradford. So I get it. I don't have any problem with it. But it just, buyback, I don't know. When you hear like gun buyback, you get paid for the gun. They give you money for it. I suppose the thing of value here is the tree, but I've just in my head have been used to growing up and seeing that as something that is a giveaway. And buyback just seems like a real weird word to use for it, or not weird, but I don't know. Yeah, that got sent to me, and when I saw the headline and I read it, I was like, well, that just didn't seem like what I thought it was going to seem like. Anyway,
I wonder if they're going to cut them around the Capitol, because they've got them all around it. Or they did at the last time I was up there.
That is actually pretty interesting. And the thing is, they are very visually pretty there for a period of time. I think so anyway. Mm-hmm. It's springtime. It's one of those things that signal, the cherry blossoms in D.C. We got the Bradford pears here. If as a state you are encouraging people to get rid of Bradford pears, particularly at their own expense, yet you have them all around the Capitol. It's arguably mixed messages to some degree.
Somebody said, and this is a perfect description, they smell like wet dog or dog crap. Yeah, wet dog.
That's crazy. We have or had Bradford pear trees, of course, over time because of storms we've lost them. But I don't know if I ever noticed that before. I had no idea. That is the first time I've ever even heard that. Clearly, I'm the one that is just ignorant on this because everyone else seems to know this. Not like lilacs, then, I guess. All right. There are a number of updated stories regarding left-wing activists that are, of course, carrying out terrorist attacks or encouraging terrorist attacks. And not all of them are aimed at people who own a particular vehicle. There was a Texas man arrested for what is described as an alarming social media post vowing to open fire on ICE agents. ICE agents, of course, are individuals that have long been targeted verbally by Democrats. Kamala Harris famously equated them to members of the KKK. And that is verbiage that even prior to now, back during the Black Lives Matter, during that whole era, after Kamala Harris really began verbally targeting ICE agents. That's when there began to be numerous terrorist attacks on ICE facilities, Molotov cocktails, the standard Democrat tools that they use. And so this renewed targeting of ICE agents by the Democrats here, we continue to see pop up. The Department of Homeland Security arresting the man for making the terrorist threat against ICE agents and DHS Chief Kristi Noem, Robert King, taken into custody in McKinney, Texas, after he vowed to, quote, open fire on ICE agents around his neighborhood. DHS said yesterday King's alarming social media post included intentions to open fire if agents are seen anywhere in his neighborhood. Now, this man is not the other recent social media user who recently went viral for calling on people to shoot ICE agents and giving them what he believed in his instructions were a legal way out of it. Just claim that you didn't know who they were, that I thought maybe they were gang members or they were trying to kidnap my family. And so some of these left-wing activists are not only encouraging people to murder ICE agents, but to, basically try to give them some legal defense to do so. And I don't think that reasonable people would disagree that if you have an increasing number of people that are from the same political ideology talking to other people of their political ideology, all instructing them to target certain people and then giving them legal advice essentially on how to get out of it, telling them what excuses to use, the idea that people will not react to that. You can't do that and then claim, well, but no one, they don't really mean it, see. No, they don't actually want anyone to do that. No one would ever listen to that and do it. I mean, just look at how quickly they were able to create an army of domestic terrorists all across this country on a daily basis, attacking people, sometimes the people themselves who are seen as Trump supporters because of the vehicles they drive. Yesterday, one of the stories we had, or the day before, was some 70-some-year-old guy who hit a guy with his car as he got out of his Trump vehicle with like a Trump flag or something, and he deliberately ran over him or hit him. You have there's the chairman of the DNC posted a picture on social media of this is in the midst of all of this, posted a picture of a Cybertruck that was smashed by a giant wedge of cheese. This is supposed to be symbolic because Wisconsin voted for a liberal on the Supreme Court and put enough said. The imagery suggesting that these continued attacks on people who own the vehicles, and because it specifically showed smashed a Tesla vehicle, that somehow that is resulting in these positive outcomes at the ballot box. This is the head of the DNC. And here they have a victory when it came to a judicial election, and the head of the DNC is out there promoting this idea that the reason that happened is because people are out there attacking Trump supporters and destroying Tesla vehicles. That's the key to success is domestic terrorism. This is the chairman of the DNC. There was another story. Maybe those were the two I had for today. I usually grab 2 or 3 different stories about these terrorist attacks that take place. Those must have been the 2 that I had today. I thought I had another one, but 2 a day seems like a good number without going overboard, doesn't it? Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. It's really interesting to see Democrats celebrate Wisconsin as this is sort of banner celebration of Democrat values because the people in Wisconsin went and voted for a Supreme Court justice that was funded by George Soros. And, of course, they keep positioning it as, we beat a multi-billionaire with the support of another multi-billionaire, George Soros. For all of the focus the media is putting on Elon Musk spending time and effort and money in Wisconsin to support the conservative constitutional judge, George Soros was doing the same thing, at least financially speaking. Isn't it funny how they don't mention any of that? None of it. It's almost as if they want to keep that hidden. And billionaires have a right to participate just like anyone else. But I got to be honest with you. As much as the left wants to demonize Elon Musk, just look at these two individuals and their contributions to society, and you tell me which of those you'd rather have on your side. I mean, Elon Musk that has, for those of you who just love the war in Ukraine, that he was, this gets often forgotten, that he has been credited, or at least he was before he became a Trump supporter, with helping Ukraine turn things around because it was Starlink that he offered up to them the usage of that allowed them to start communicating in a meaningful way that stopped what otherwise was seen as the inevitable fall of Ukraine at the hand of Russia. And so all of a sudden, they were able to start communicating. And we played audio at the time in which they were talking to, there were interviews with people on the ground there and saying that if it were not for this, if it were not for Elon Musk, we don't know where we would be right now. He did that. You know, he's, quote, saving the environment with electric vehicles. You've got the saving of these two astronauts. He's working on this Neuralink thing, which is expected to have these just massively incomprehensible implications in terms of helping people who, you know, maybe have a number of different physical brain ailment disabilities, things that are just absolutely beyond the realm of what many people could even imagine the future would bring. Then he's sacrificing, much like Trump, his personal wealth to do one thing, and that is to help taxpayers save dollars. To find these areas to do what, under Trump, all past presidents have claimed they were going to do but didn't actually do, and he's doing it. And for what? So Democrats can run around celebrating the fact that they're destroying his product and his company? He has contributed more to the advancement of society and in some capacities mankind than most people could ever imagine. What has George Soros done? That guy runs around getting pro-criminal prosecutors elected in cities like St. Louis and Chicago and elsewhere that take violent criminals and put them right back out on the streets. All of this, anti-police, anti-law enforcement, pro-criminal, every one of these prosecutors that you hear about across the country or you have over the last several years that are part of the problem when it comes to crime and have been responsible for skyrocketing crime, those are people that George Soros put in place. So if I'm looking at two billionaires that are active on opposing sides of some of these elections, I'm going with Elon Musk over George Soros any day. But aside from that, at the same time, while Democrats are celebrating the George Soros attorney as some huge victory, proving that Wisconsin is actually all about Democrats, at the same time, overwhelmingly, those exact same voters said, yeah, we want to not only have photo ID requirement to vote, but we want that enshrined in the Constitution so leftist judges can't override it. That's how much we believe in it. Now, I'm sorry, but I thought that was Jim Crow stuff. or Jim Eagle or Jim Crow 2.0. I thought photo ID was something that only racists supported. When they decided in Georgia to have photo ID, you had boycotts all over the place. Major League Baseball moved the All-Star game out of Atlanta because of racist policies of requiring people to show an ID, all, because we're told that disenfranchises black people. Jim Crow. So as Democrats tout the voters in Wisconsin is proving that they are Democrat-leaning, rejecting the Donald Trump agenda, you got to accept, listen, we're not talking about two different sets of voters here. These are the same voters. Why is the media not talking about this? Why is the media not talking about how these voters that seemingly are sympathetic towards the blue and supporters of the Democrats not embracing the fact that they voted for Jim Crow laws at the same time? That's sort of an interesting little nugget of information for them to ignore, isn't it? I mean, it's just amazing how dishonest these people are. And listen, there's a lot of, obviously, the Republicans would have preferred that there was consistency in the vote, and that conservatives who want photo IDs, that would have translated into, or it's not just conservative that want photo IDs. Clearly, you have a lot of Democrats and a lot of independent voters that wanted photo ID. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had the split that you did. But that also tells us another story, and that is people who want photo IDs cross the political spectrum. That would be an interesting discussion to have had, but no, we like to cherry pick, don't we? Ultimately, they just elude themselves, however, so we've seen how that works out for them in the past, and it could potentially continue to work out that same way in the future. Glenn Beck's coming up next. Talk with you tomorrow. I'm Nick Reed.